Hi there. I'm Erica Rigling from the Pacifica Historical Society and host of this edition of Footprints of Pacifica. This show is the second in a trilogy celebrating 50 years of the Pacifica Spindrift Players. The first show introduced the founders, Sheila Hyman and Sidney Clark, who told us about the beginnings of the Pacifica Players and the Spindrift Playhouse, and the joining together of the two groups to form the Pacifica Spindrift Players. Today we're looking at the middle years, from the earliest plays to the current day. I've asked our guests, Kathy and John Pantolian, to come today to tell us about this period during which the Players developed into a full-fledged theatrical group. Kathy, please tell us about yourself and what brought you to Pacifica.
Well, I was born in San Francisco. I grew up in Oakland, though, however, and I was attending San Francisco State University. And my first husband, Stuart, and I bought a home in Pacifica in the Westview area. And both being involved in community theater, we started looking around for a theater group that we could get involved with, because we'd been involved in the Bay Area, East Bay, with a lot of different places. And we went to the Pacifica Spindrift Players. We saw the play advertised. It was A Delicate Balance. I remember that. And as they say, the rest is history. We got involved, and my first role there in 1971 was, and I was like 23 at the time, was an 80-year-old actress. So I got a chance to use my makeup training from San Francisco State. But anyway, we did the Cave Dwellers, and at the same time I was starting teaching in Pacifica in 1973-74 school year. And so we were pretty involved with all things in Pacifica at that point. And a couple of years in, I started doing children's plays for about 7 years with the Players.
Kathy, tell us about some of your roles that you've played. This is one of them.
That's the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland, which is one of my favorite roles, being a feline. It's the second reincarnation. The first one was a totally different costume. My Aunt Florence, who's passed away now, she made all the costumes. And so it's one of my favorite roles. I got to do all the cat-like things. So.
And then, John, you came down here to Pacifica also.
Yes, I was originally lived in San Francisco, and my dad had a grocery store, and grew up in that sort of thing. Anyhow, when we sold the store, I went back to college to get my degree in drama, and to become hopefully a high school teacher in drama. But at that time, there were no positions available at all. And so we had trouble in San Francisco, and so with the situation there, the environment and everything, so my mom and I moved to Pacifica. And when I got here, being a drama teacher, I got interested in looking at the theater company, and we found out. And so I finally went in in the early 80s, I think it was, when I auditioned for a show there, and I got my first part in Bus Stop. I played Virgil, had to sing a song with a ukulele, which was a lot of fun.
And tell us about this picture.
That is one of my favorite ever roles. I played Tevye in Fiddler on the Roof, and I've done that maybe 6 or 7 times. But it took me a long time to get the role because I was so young. I would audition, and it was okay, but they wanted an older person. So anyhow, it's my favorite role, really. I had that and The Cowardly Lion and Zorba the Greek.
You like those character roles.
Oh yeah, they were fun. Lots of fun.
In our first video, we heard about the city of Pacifica purchasing the Baptist Church building that was originally located where Cabrillo's School is now. It was rolled up Crespi Drive on October 31st, 1962, and became the community center for Pacifica. John or Kathy, what was it like sharing the building those first 10 years or so?
Well, it was very interesting because we didn't have any of the auditorium part was also the seniors' lunchroom, And it was also where they did all the PB&R classes, because it was like the community center at that point. So whenever we were going to do a show, we had to start our shows at 8:30 because the aerobics class didn't finish until 7:30. So we'd have to go in and take everything out of there, put the seats up, and get everything set up. And then we'd have to take it all down again, before Monday. And, we'd be in there rehearsing, and, they'd be cooking, and it was always very aromatic in there. But we did have a lot of shared shows with the seniors. We used to do the dinner cabarets or variety shows, and the Spindrift players would provide the entertainment, and then the seniors would, they'd have all their tables set up and everything, and they would have a spaghetti dinner. And so those were a lot of fun, because everybody just was having a good time. I mean, it's just people from all over the place.
One of the things I remember about those days was they had these wooden seats that were 3 chairs attached, and they folded up.
The church seats,
and they had to be taken up and down in between shows
and put under the stage.
And some very industrious women had sewn cushions so that if you got there early for one of the theater shows,
there wasn't
you
enough
had a cushion under these to sit on these hard wooden benches.
Yeah, in addition to that, there were 2 other rooms in the building that were used while we were rehearsing, because the Chamber of Commerce used to meet there, and then there was an art commission group that used to meet in the back room. So trying to juggle all the rehearsal time and the show times and all these
we didn't have all the
meetings and stuff.
downstairs area.
Yeah, we didn't have all that either for our costumes and makeup and everything.
Because the city stored things
Yeah,
down there,
right,
and they
yeah.
had. We did have interesting makeup and costumes, because we had to do all that in what was the preschool daycare. And so we did all of our makeup and stuff in these little teeny chairs, so you're at these little teeny tables. So that was kind of interesting when you had a big 6'5" guy, trying to crunch down in this chair to do the makeup. But, we also had to take, and we had special bamboo kind of curtains made to put over the bulletin boards, because the auditorium was lined with all their bulletin boards and papers and stuff. So those we had special ones made so that those could be hung and covered, that up. So it was a regular process.
We have a picture here of the original building that was the Baptist Church building. And in 1962, as we said, it was rolled up to the site where the theater now stands. There have been a lot of changes made to the building over the years. And one of those was in 1979 and 1980. And Kathy had told me that the theater was dark as the building was being renovated. Kathy, do you know what renovations were done then, or John?
Well, they were renovating it the city was renovating it for the seniors, because it was their made senior center, because the building they're at now was still the telephone company. And they literally added on a whole section to it. The staircase that used to be inside, it was an inside staircase, now is buried under what is the kitchen. You can still see it downstairs, part of the staircase. They didn't really do any major renovations to the auditorium area. It was mostly the kitchen. They put in, at that time, a state-of-the-art kitchen. And then they added on several rooms to the side of that. They changed the entrance, as I mentioned before. Redid the bathrooms, and so it was pretty extensive. And we were out of there for pretty much a year.
In 1980, the first show in a year was held at the newly renovated theater. We're missing some of the records of plays during that time, but Kathy had looked up and found the names of some of those plays when they started again in 1980.
Well, actually, in 1980, we did this was just before the theater reopened again, or the building reopened again. We did Thurber Carnival at what used to be the Crespi School on Crespi. It was, at that time, it was a private high school. And we did do Thurber Carnival there, and then that was in 1980, and then we moved in, back into the theater. I don't know if this was the first show or not, but we did, and Miss Reardon Drinks a Little was probably the first show I remember doing in there. Do you want some of the other shows, or
Just quickly.
we did What the Butler Saw, Thousand Clowns, Dracula, Chapter 2, which is a Neil Simon play. Then 83, 84, we did Death Takes a Holiday, The Sunshine Boys, which is where John and I got reacquainted, having known each other at San Francisco State. And we did The Two of Us, Harvey, Bell, Book, and Candle, in which one of our cats was the star, and Wizard of Oz for the first time, and Cabaret.
John, in 1984, you were elected president of the group, and musicals and children's shows were reestablished. What was the effect of that?
Well, it was a wonderful effect because we hadn't done a musical for quite a long time, and we hadn't done a children's show for a while for whatever reasons. So I was able to get the board to get Man of La Mancha for our first musical to start again. And so we had auditions, and everybody came, and there weren't that many people that came because we didn't have a reputation for doing musicals.
We figured we'd have it packed house,
Yeah,
right?
but
Man
no,
of La Mancha,
yeah,
they'll come
right.
from everywhere,
So we came to the last day of the rehearsal, and we had no Don Quixote, we had no Aldonza, and we thought, what are we going to do? And in the back of our auditorium walks in this big, tall, white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed man with this woman with the wild black hair. They were a married couple. And he sang with the San Francisco Opera Company, and she had a master's degree in voice.
And they actually did scenes from Man of La Mancha in a cabaret style.
Cabaret style, and I mean, it was as if God said, go there because they need you. And the man was, they were both wonderful, and it made it work. Problem was, at that time, the proscenium wall was so short, and he was so tall, that when he had to sing The Impossible Dream
And go up the stairs.
Go up the stairs while he was doing it, he couldn't do that because he took 2 steps and then you couldn't see his head anymore. So we had to reblock it and have him sing down on
Sing
stage.
it on the floor.
But from there it built. People loved musicals, they loved children's shows, and all the other plays too. And so from when I inherited a $172 budget is all we had, it developed through the years, and I don't know how many, to over $70,000 we got from ticket sales mostly, and because we started doing those musicals and children's shows, and people love those things.
John, also in the 80s, there got to be a group of young teens who got very active, and in fact, were even on your board, I think, at different times then. One of them, in this photo from the Pacifica Tribune, was Eric Rasmussen, his friend Chris Korp, David Hoffman, who's still around town sometimes, and they were very active for a couple of years in there, and still think very fondly, have written to me about their experiences that they had while they were in the theater.
I'd like to say, could I say,
Sure.
when we were talking about the earlier times and all the work we had to do the shows and put them together, the interesting part about that was that people gave so much of themselves to make this thing work. No one was being paid. It was all volunteer, and the spirit behind it overflowed and spilled over into the rehearsal process, so that the acting even improved because of all the work that they did to get there. And it was really a wonderful, wonderful time.
The earthquake of 1989 destroyed the Geary Theater in San Francisco, and the seats from that theater were offered to theater companies. PSP took advantage of that and remodeled the theater again. Tell us about that.
Well, we went down and picked out the seats. They gave it to us, but they needed some work on them because they were there for a long time, and so we had them all refurnished or reburnished, or whichever the word is, and we asked people to donate a seat for $150, after it was redone, and then we built these risers
And
to
they
put
had
them
their
on.
name on the
and they have a little plaque
nameplate.
on, for those who gave the $150, we put a name on each one of the seats, and we built the risers and they are the most comfortable seats. I am telling you, and I've been in a lot of theaters, and boy, I love going there because it's so comfortable.
Let me just mention too,
Yeah.
by now the seniors were in the what used to
Oh,
be
yeah.
the telephone building, which
Yeah,
is
yeah, right. The
now
seniors
where
were
they
gone.
are.
Yeah.
So we were the sole tenants
Right,
at that
right,
point.
yeah.
So.
I want to show you a picture of that too. This is a more recent picture, but it shows the seating in the theater. It holds 99 seats, and then they can fit in a few extras if needed. But this is a recent
Yeah.
picture, and you see the refurbished seats down here. Whoops.
There's not a bad seat in the house.
No.
Because we're so close, it's so intimate.
There was also some other refurbishing in the stage, of the stage at that time, right?
Yeah.
Actually, it was prior to that.
Yeah, it was prior to that, but nonetheless, it was around the same time. We took down the old proscenium wall and put up this new one that we have now and made it much bigger and better. There were two lofts on stage right and stage left. There's one on each side with a pole that held them up there that the church had for whatever reason. So that came down. And then there was upstage in the back, there was a wall that went across the back of the stage with a door in the middle. So every time we had to do a play without a door in the middle, we had to cover that
Well,
somehow.
it was like it was where the pulpit was, and
Yeah,
so we
yeah.
had every show we did had to either have a terrace
Or something,
or a
yeah.
balcony or some kind of piece of furniture that actually we had some things units actually built
So all that had to
to
come
fit
down.
into that.
Yeah, all that had
And
to
the
come
stage
out.
was extended out, the
Yeah,
apron
right.
part of it.
Stage
too,
came out
so.
further towards the audience.
Even recently in 2002, there was another refurbishing of the building by the group that's called Rebuilding Together, who painted and
Yeah.
fixed all through the
Yeah,
theater.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And so the theater today looks like this. It has the steps up the front rather than up through the center of the building. And
We were fortunate also to, along the time when all this was happening, we've had some really wonderful people come, like our friend Ed Reed, who does it. He's a lighting specialist, and he fixed us up with all these new lighting equipment. Because when I first started, we had one dimmer board that had 6 dimmers on it, and only 5 worked. And, and we didn't have much choice about what we could use for lighting. And now we've got, digital and computer and all that sort of thing due to Ed Reed and his expertise. So
funding of theater has always been a struggle for the fledgling group and also over the years. How did you manage to put on such elaborate productions?
well, we had mostly volunteers. Like I said, no one was being paid. And the way we were able to do this is through the ticket sales, because different shows cost different amounts of money for the royalties. Musicals were the most expensive. Right now, they're up to around $6,000 or $7,000 for the rights, or more, depending on the musical itself. At that time, it wasn't quite as expensive, but it was enough for us. And so, we had to raise our ticket price, I think, from $3 to $6, and now it's about $18 or something like that. And, but that was the way we were able to make it.
Well, we used to work out of like Luther Spraker and Bob's, Southworth. We used to actually print our programs and everything, the mimeograph machine, in their
Yeah.
garage.
Yeah.
So,
that
a
was
lot
a-
of it was just what we had.
And some people gave donations, and we have advertisers in our programs, and that helped us too.
Does the city of Pacifica provide any funding or any other tax place?
Not at this time, no.
No. Okay. You were telling me that the rent for the building used to be $1 a year,
$1 a
and
year.
now it's gone up to quite.
That's when we were under the auspices of the Parks and Beach and Recreation Department.
Now it's gone up to
About 1,500, is it? Something like that.
plus utilities.
like that.
Plus
yeah.
utilities and everything else, but we share it with the school that's there. They pay half of the rent and we pay the other half, so.
So you said that ticket sales were most of your revenue, but you also have a trust that was put in place by a former president. Would you tell us about her?
Well, Muriel Watkin was a long, long time part of the Pacifica Spindrift players, and God bless her, when she passed on, she willed her apartment or a condo to us, and the money was, it was sold and the money was put into a trust. And so every month we get an interest payment, and that really helps us a lot, especially when something goes wrong and special stuff.
She was our major costumer for years
Oh,
too.
yeah,
What a
right.
talented lady in many areas. But
And can act.
so fortunately, we were left all the costumes that she
Yeah.
had too.
And so we've named the gallery after her because of her generosity, and we sure miss her.
And then you were telling me about the scholarship fund.
Yeah, that Tom Stack was one of our wonderful actors and president for the long time. and unfortunately he passed away very young. I think he was 54 years old, something like that. And so he was, excuse me, people donated money in his name toward a scholarship fund so that high school students or other students can apply for it, and then they can get a certain amount of money depending on what was in it to go to college and help them through.
Well, it has to be towards some type of project involved with the arts.
Yeah, with the arts, yeah.
What kind of fundraising do you do?
Well, we've had hula dances one time. We had Westlaw Whitfield twice out there, and Westlaw I was in college with, and she came, bless her heart. And if you know her, you know how wonderful she is. And what else did we have, Kathy?
Well, we have
variety shows.
Well, now it's a VSOP, very special
benefit thing. Yeah.
Anyway, for different people will come, and some of them donate their time. Others we have to pay a minimal fee, but that's one way of raising funds. We used to have the PG&E, and I can't remember what it stood for now, but it literally was the PG&E fund, because when we started having to pay our own PG&E bill, we literally had to do fundraisers just to pay the PG&E bill, because it was huge. And so we have different benefits that we do. We get some grants. We do have some grant writing, like Ed Reed wrote a grant to get the lighting system that we now have. So, but unfortunately, we don't do as much grant writing as we should. But
how would people go about getting involved in this theater that's right in our own backyard?
Very easy. All you need to do is make the phone call, come on down, and say that you'd like to do whatever it is. You want to act, you want to do lighting, you want to do costumes, you want to do backstage, you want to do set building.
You can do hospitality.
Sell tickets.
Everybody,
box
we have
office.
people that train people to do the job, so it doesn't matter if you have, any background in it.
We welcome anyone who'd like to be a part of it.
And it's all volunteer help.
It's all volunteer help,
Yes.
yeah.
I know that Sidney Clark, one of the founders, is still helping to paint sets over there 50 years later.
Fantastic artist.
She's wonderful. Oh, God, she's wonderful.
How do young people get involved?
They can come just like anyone else and audition for shows that have young people in them, or they can join the school that we have there, the Spindrift School of Performing Arts, for all ages. And they teach you how to sing, dance, play the piano, whatever. And but if there's a part for a youngster, all he has to do is come and audition. Just show up, look in the paper, find out when it is, or call the company, tell them, ask, when are the auditions for the next show or whatever. Because we put on 5 or 6 shows a year, so.
And Kathy and John, I know in addition to your work there at the Spindrift Theater, you've done an awful lot of work in the schools. And would you just tell us a little something about the plays that you've helped the school children put on?
Well, I worked in the Pacifica School District for 30 years, teaching both regular and special education. And any school that I was at for any length of time, we usually did full-length musicals with Alice in Wonderland, Pinocchio, Wizard of Oz, Charlie Brown. Fiddler. We have a short version of Fiddler. And we would actually hold auditions, and it would be mostly from like 3rd grade up. And so the kids would go through the whole process of auditioning, and they sung, they had to sing. There was, a full musical, 2-hour kind of thing. And
this was the outreach program from Pacifica Spindrift players.
And the players were great. They donated, let us use costumes, lighting.
Sound.
People came and helped us from the theater company to do, different stuff on the show. So it was nice. And we did it pretty much every school that I worked at.
I estimate that we probably dealt with over 2,000 kids in different places through the years. And the most significant one was when she was teaching a resource specialist. We did a play with 6 of their special ed kids, and we did a 40-minute version of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and they were absolutely fabulous. They were so good that we toured the whole district, and we went to all the schools and played it there, and people were just taken aback to have these kids do this sort of thing.
So if someone is interested in either coming to the plays or being a part of it, you said that they could contact the theater, and I'll tell you that number is 359-8002 if you are in Pacifica and want to be involved. John and Kathy, I want to thank you for participating tonight in this recap of the 50 years of Pacifica Spindrift Players.
Thank you.
You've added valuable information to the record, and that brings us up to this year, which has been the 50th anniversary of the Pacifica Spindrift Players. The 50th committee created 3 events this year in commemoration of this achievement. The last show of the trilogy will highlight those happenings. The information included tonight in this show was researched by Erica Rigling, Jerry Crow, Sheila Hyman, Sidney Clark, John and Kathy Pantolian, and Eric Rasmussen, who resides in Australia. This partial history is a work in progress. Corrections, additions, and new information will be welcomed in care of the PSP Theater. That phone number again is, I think that was wrong before, it's 359. Oh, it is 359-8002.
It's on the screen.
Now, I think we still have a few more minutes here. So, John, tell us about your most favorite play.
Oh gosh, there were so many. Of course, Fiddler on the Roof was, and when I was with the Eureka Theater, we did Zorba, and I got to play Zorba. That was fun. And I think one of the most touching ones for me was when I played The Lion and the Wizard of Oz at San Francisco State University. I had more fun doing that, you know. And Sunshine's Boys was another one that was a lot of fun, because it's that old vaudeville thing, you know. And that's when Kathy and I got interested in each other. She played the sexy little nurse, and I played the old doctor. And so it went from there.
That must have been a great show.
Oh, yeah. It was fun. It was funny, a very funny show. Neil Simon, what else can you do, you know?
And Kathy, besides the cat shows that you've been in, I know you also like to play witches.
Yes, the Wicked Witch of the West is my very, very favorite role, and I'll tell you, when I was teaching, what an outlet it was that night.
She had a bad day in school. That Wicked Witch performance that night was the best. It was the best, better than even the one in the movie.
You want to give us one of your cackling?
Oh my goodness!
Give us a little performance.
It's a little rusty.
Oh, look, everybody's running out of the room.
Oh, that was a great performance, Kathy. I really appreciate it. It's been fun having you both here tonight.
Thank you.
And we really appreciate your time that you've put into this. And also, Pacifica needs to thank you for all that you've contributed to the children of this community.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you for doing this. Okay.